This is it, guys. Republican Congressman Clay Higgins finally fired back at far-left radical Democrat Ayanna Pressley, a member of the squad, after she demanded him not to quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during an explosive hearing. And let me tell you guys, it was a total liberal shutdown. You got to see this because it just goes to show that this woman and probably other squad members has no business serving in the constitutional government. Check this out.
I'd like to take a personal note of privilege to say, please keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name out of your mouths. Yes. Your perversion of his words and his mission when his children have asked you to stop invoking his name and perverting his work when he was a proud and unapologetic black man fighting for equality for black Americans and all marginalized people. So you all are entitled to your opinions, but not a denial of the facts. But I'm not surprised that you would deny American history. A colleague across the aisle invoked the phrase of, we must do everything to stop government-sponsored oppression. Well, I've just enumerated numerous examples, which is exactly why we have legislation and an executive order to reverse this harm. And that is why I'm committed to opposing this bill and urge my colleagues to do the same.
I thank my colleague, and I appreciate my Democrat colleague for exemplifying exactly the kind of oppression of freedoms that we're referencing. How about we'll quote whoever we want to quote? How about that's my First Amendment right? That's exactly the kind of baked-in oppression. Like, how dare a white Republican quote Martin Luther King? We actually had a congressman say that just now in this committee. Well, thank you, good lady, for once again exemplifying the type of oppression that we stand against. You know I'm right. You know I'm right.
Order. Mr. Higgins has the floor.
And we will quote who we please to quote.
A disgrace.
And we will continue to speak freely because I'm a veteran. That's the country that I serve. That's a constitution I swore an allegiance to. And that oath has no expiration date. I will fight for it with my last life's blood. For my right to speak freely and yours, good lady. You will never hear me saying, how dare you quote anybody you please to quote. And that exemplifies, America, precisely the type of institutional oppression that my colleague, Mr. Cloud's bill, for which I'm an original co-sponsor, hopes to push back against.
Seriously, guys, I totally agree with Higgins on this one. She was totally out of line and wasn't even being respectful while the congressman was talking. You could even say that she was racist and a hypocrite, typical of what they call the squad, a far-left sect of the House Democrats that includes people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. And, well, it sounded a lot like Congressman Higgins had enough of her. And I gotta say, guys, he rightfully showed no tolerance for her pointed remarks. Liberals like Pressley are the exact reason why this country overwhelmingly voted for our president-elect. The American people just simply had enough of their woke agenda and DEI initiatives. In fact, this is exactly what they want to take down in the Dismantle DEI Act from Congressman Michael Cloud. Here's the latest.
Oversight Committee advancing the Dismantle DEI Act yesterday. It'll head for a full House vote. The bill aims to pursue all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, take them out of the federal government. Congressman, you introduced this bill along with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. Tell us more.
Yeah, this bill does really three things. It would close the DEI offices that the Biden administration stood up in virtually every single agency, but then they've tried to force feed this really Marxist agenda on the American people through the contracting process. Any company doing business with the United States was asked to adopt these sort of policies within their companies, and then through the grant writing process, where if you're an NGO or research institution or something trying to get grants, you again had to adopt these sort of policies and force feed them on the American people. Well, even the business community now is saying, maybe there are some altruistic motives for some of these people who are embracing this sort of ideology, but it's not working. And you're seeing a retraction among the business community. We've got to get this out of the government as well. It claims to help with diversity when it actually works against those ends and makes things worse. It makes race the first thing we think about as opposed to merit and people being either hired or promoted for their work and their performance and what they bring to the organization.
Oh, they want diversity? Well, here's CNN commentator talking about Trump's very diverse cabinet.
Trump is not getting enough credit here for building an ideologically diverse cabinet. When you got everybody from Russ Vought, who's very conservative, all the way over to the pick for labor secretary is a supporter of the PRO Act, and somehow Randy Weingarten is happy about it. I mean, what he has done is, which makes me squeamish, to be candid. And so what he has done, though, is put together an ideologically diverse group of people to sit in a room and help run the government. And that's kind of how he won. His coalition was kind of ideologically diverse that elected him.
See, what Democrats refuse to admit is the fact that Donald Trump actually accepted people who he was running against before, even people who have said some of the nastiest things about him. Plus the support that he got from black voters, from Latino voters. Now, this is what I call diverse, not that kind of DEI first silliness liberals are trying to force down America's throat. Now, I am thankful to report that the House of Representatives just took a big step toward purging diversity, equity, and inclusion from the federal government. Kind of like what you heard earlier, the House Oversight Committee passed Texas Representative Michael Cloud's Dismantle DEI Act on a party line vote, sending the bill to a full vote. It's a 48-page bill, and they say that it would not only target federal offices and personnel, but also contractors and training, education, grants, and more. And it would also ensure equal protection of law to prevent racism in the federal government. Now, just to share, guys, this bill was one of Vance's last before joining President-elect Donald Trump's campaign. He said that the DEI agenda is a destructive ideology that breeds hatred and racial division. And what a note to end his Senate career on, right? As Congressman Cloud described it, DEI initiatives falsely claim to promote fairness, but instead institutionalize division, inefficiency, and discrimination. These policies, they waste taxpayer money while eroding the merit-based principles that have been the cornerstone of America's success. So together with Vice President J.D. Vance, he introduced the Dismantle DEI Act that strikes at the heart of this harmful ideology, ensuring that our government is driven by excellence and equality, not divisive identity politics. They hear the American people loud and clear. They're saying, hey, it's time to root out these discriminatory practices and also to restore a system that serves all Americans equally. Now, just to give you an example, Cloud mentioned a recent no harm report that found the Biden administration had pursued over 500 DEI related actions. As Cloud pointed out, these initiatives have not only failed to achieve their stated goals, but they've also resulted in absurd and wasteful programs that drain resources while dividing our nation at the same time. And even worse than that, they sometimes lead to unqualified individuals being placed in critical roles just for the sake of meeting DEI benchmarks, jeopardizing efficiency and public safety. Just look at Vice President Kamala Harris, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. These government officials have been criticized time and time again as inefficient and causing harm to the American people through their ineptitude. It was under Kimberly Cheadle's leadership that there were 2 assassination attempts on President-elect Trump. It was partly because of the inflammatory rhetoric of Harris and Jean-Pierre that caused Donald Trump to be put in danger in the first place. And as Cloud rightfully said, this is not progress. This is a dangerous detour that risks erasing the strides that we've made toward a more perfect union. So with the Dismantle DEI Act, they hope to reaffirm our commitment to the ideals of equality, merit, and justice that make our nation great. I mean, that's what the 76 million Americans voted for, right? Drop a quick yes in the comments, guys. Hit the like button to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell for more updates like this one straight to your devices. All right, so let's get back to it. So this Dismantle DEI bill, it's just going to be the start of things, okay? In fact, experts are saying that the incoming Trump administration will likely target many DEI initiatives. One of the last things then President Trump did during his first term was issue an executive order to ban divisive training for federal contractors. Now, this was explained by Devin Wasteful, constitutional and civil rights attorney. He said that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that pushes left-wing, far-left ideology, orthodoxy in essentially every area of American life, which is why they've begun to call it the DEI enterprise instead of just DEI, so that people have a sense of what they're talking about. So yeah, it kind of looks like a lot of liberals have been making a ton of money out of this thing too. I mean, just take a look at the last 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration. In 2021, Biden widened an executive order directing agencies to assess and remove barriers to equal opportunity through DEI policies. Another executive executive order signed that year was a government-wide initiative to embed DEI principles into federal hiring. Even the Department of Education has released reports encouraging DEI on public university campuses. The Biden-Harris administration even invested in DEI programs within the U.S. military. The military, you guys. And it's not just the government. Large corporations across the U.S. have also adopted DEI workplace policies, including Accenture, Johnson & Johnson, MasterCard, Marriott International, Kaiser Permanente, Ernst & Young, Target, Google, Bank of America, even American Express. According to Will Hild, Executive Director of Consumers Research, it reached a point where if you wouldn't go along with under the Biden administration with the DEI regimen, then they were threatening to sue you or to claim that you're violating civil rights of minorities. So it was more of a combination of the threat of bad press or government action against these corporations. They said that consumers, that's us, you guys, we've also suffered as a result of DEI policies since it shifted companies' focus away from the quality of goods. And hold on to your hats, guys, because your pension may have actually been put in danger because of this. Apparently, pension funds have been increasingly incorporating ESG and DEI considerations into their investment processes over the last 4 years. Would you believe that, guys? Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird is looking into this. She said that they want to make sure that they are protecting people's pensions because no one's retirement and life savings should be gambled for these woke ESG and DEI goals. Now, honestly, guys, the DEI enterprise should be top of the list for the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, under billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The two have been tasked with cutting down the $6.75 trillion that the federal government spent in 2024, and we all know where they should be starting. Now, as John Hart, CEO of Watchdog, Open the Books, explained it, they will curb spending that has been on autopilot where there's no real thought or even purpose behind it. Finding areas to cut, it's not going to be hard. They've even compiled it in their own government reports. Now, of course, there's DEI. That should go first. The Department of Health and Human Services hired 294 employees at a cost of $38.7 million to oversee diversity, equity, and inclusion, as reported by the Open Books. Then there's all these obscure research that probably has to do with DEI. The National Endowment of the Humanities spends hundreds of thousands of dollars per year on obscure studies. Their January 2024 grants alone awarded over $350,000 to research and write books on the history of Muslim-Chinese encounters in Asia from the 1360s to the 1640s, the history and sociological impact of liver disease in Egypt, and the nature of imprisonment in England from 1550 to 1800. You see what I mean, guys? The State Department also gave nearly $58.7 million to China, our #1 competitor, between 2017 and 2022. Nearly $100,000 of that was used to promote gender equality through the use of New Yorker magazine cartoons. The DEI rabbit hole goes even deeper, you guys. You know how much they spend on literal monkey business? Spending by the NIH includes $33 million to a firm that runs Monkey Island, a colony of around 3,000 primates sent to research labs. Also, NIH grants totaling $3.7 million funded a study on monkeys and gambling. Another $12 million went to the University of Mississippi to test monkeys on methamphetamine, and a Florida lab received $477,000 to help fund research into transgender monkeys, males injected with female hormones. What the flip is going on here, guys? Now, again, liberals and their DEI agenda being paid for by the American taxpayers like me and you. There was also that $4 million that taxpayers shelled out last year for Joe and Hunter Biden to go on a trip to Ireland. That included $1.2 million on an elaborate sound system and light show for a Biden speech and $760,000 to rent out an entire hotel in Dublin. And guess what, guys? In 2023, the federal government shipped $1.3 billion in checks to dead people from the IRS, Medicare, and assorted veterans groups. They're literally paying billions of dollars to dead people, and it can easily be stopped. The expert Hart said that the Treasury Department has a do not pay list. These people should all be on it, but there's no cross-checking between agencies paying out and the Treasury. And did you guys know that they're still paying for the pandemic? Even if the pandemic itself is over, FEMA is expected to spend another $70 billion on the pandemic by August 2026. Meanwhile, Dr. Anthony Fauci Fauci, he's been receiving $15 million worth of Social Security this year, despite being retired. According to Senator Rand Paul, Fauci basically has a limo driver and armed guards. Now, again, all paid for by the American taxpayer. You see, it's this kind of frivolous spending that Democrats don't talk about when it comes to their DEI enterprise. And I'm glad that we're finally bringing it out to light. Leave it to President-elect Trump and his own MAGA squad to drain the swamp, right guys? Just drop a quick yes in the comments, guys, and let me know your thoughts on this. And if you like this video, I highly recommend that you check out our other videos on the channel. Now, I uploaded one that I think that you're really gonna like. It's about the possibility of Elon Musk buying liberal news network MSNBC and Democrats losing their freaking minds over this idea. Again, a must watch. Be sure to check out this video that's coming up here next, or check out our playlist section down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.